Other days it doesn't go so well and you think, what the bloody hell am I doing here? That day you sort of keep going, and the next day it's okay again. I think we've all had that feeling. Good days and bad days. It's like anything, really. But as long as you want to do what you're doing that much, you'll take all the bad days for the good days. Because when you have a good day, it really is a good day. You don't need an aeroplane to fly when you've had a good day.
Looking for reasonable, accurate threshold speeds, nice touchdowns, with the wings level. Now, with a wind from the left, you can expect the left wing to rise a bit, so I want you to control it. You make the aeroplane do what you want it to do. Yeah. Don't let it do what it wants to do. Fine. OK, Al.
After 25 hours of flying, Alistair Stewart is characteristically setting himself higher standards than the others.
At the moment, it's one hell of a challenge, really, to get that aeroplane off the ground and make it do what I want it to do. Then get it back down again. But still, at this stage, I'm not competent enough to really be able to sit back and enjoy what you're actually doing in the air. I'm not sure if you're ever that good, or if you ever have that amount of time in a sort of flying military-wise. Invariably, your flying suit's soaked through in sweat, not just because it's a hot day, but because everything's bloody well happening to you. Sometimes when you've done a solo in the circuit, you come down and you do your after-landing checks. You find your mind's a complete blank.
Congratulations, well done, Al. Excellent. He's not an easy person to get to know. He doesn't mean to be. He's a little bit distant. I think it's the character he is. I've seen him, a bit more of him in the last few weeks. He's had a bit of trouble at home. He found out about a week ago that his father has got cancer, which he didn't know. He knew his father had been ill, but it appears he's undergoing a course in hospital at the moment, and obviously, we don't know what the results are going to be, but it was a little bit of a shock to him to find that out, understandably. But he's spoken to his father since he originally found out that he was in hospital. He seems much happier in his own mind about the whole thing.
Do you often find problems of domestic or emotional nature affect the flying? How does it do it?
Well, of course, it's very difficult to tell how people are affected by these things. I think it's very important, if you're going to fly as a career, that you're the sort of person that doesn't allow these things to affect you at all. You must be able to put these things to one side, because the pressures in flying are very high. As soon as we get Victor Mike again, I'll get you to do some climbing turns for me. Yes, sir. We'll have a look at them first, just to remind you what it's all about. Tell them we're India Mike Charlie, please. Foxtrot people, Victor Mike Charlie. Yeah. India Mike Charlie.
Foxtrot 34, India Mike Charlie.
Washout 34, roger.
Yeah. Do you know what that means?
Intermittent?
What?
No, sir.
Oh, if you don't know what something means, ask,
Yeah.
all right? Instrument, met conditions.
Sir.
Victor Mike Charlie means visual. Okay.
Visual.
So we're within a nautical mile of cloud. So we're in it, I'm saying. Right?
Sir.
But we're in it now. Beware of these clouds because they're full of ice. Big airfield down there.
Yeah.
Seen that before?
Yes, Holman Spalding Airport, sir.
No, it's not. Don't jump to conclusions.
Tiso, sir.
Sorry?
Tiso Airport?
Hang on. Didn't I say that was the airway? Get your map out.
Yes, sir.
Have a look and see where that airway is. Now your ears, all right?
Right one's a wee bit sore, sir.
Sorry?
Right one's a wee bit sore.
Try and unblock it by blowing on your nose, holding your breath and blowing. And swallowing. All right? How's it going now?
It's getting a little bit better, sir, thanks. Speed limit 140 knots, undercarriage, going down. 3 reds, 3 greens. Maintaining altitude to give 150 knot descent. Speed dropping slightly, changing altitude. Holding it, and trimming it.
When you're ready, we'll take our flap down. Maintain 115 knots. Now look, take it easy, Al. What I showed you this morning, look, you follow me through, you apply power and gently change the attitude. Not a great heave.
Yeah.
Reduce power, gently change the attitude. You're being too rough.
I know.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
And then if your speed's too low, you just lower the down slightly. All right?
I say people don't think about failing. That's a complete lie. That's the one thing that's in everybody's mind. The dreaded chop, this sort of thing. It's bound to be a very prominent thing in people's minds when you've got such a very competitive type of course. It's not competitive in that we're not vying against each other, but we're struggling all the time to maintain a standard, a set standard. And if you don't come up to that, then obviously something's going to happen. You've either got to improve, or else you're going to have to sort of think of doing something else for a living.
Meanwhile, Martin Oxborough has failed his elementary handling test at the first attempt. His squadron commander feels that he may be suffering from personal pressures quite apart from flying.
Well, the married man, of course, has got divided loyalties. He's trying to learn a new skill, which is taking up a lot of his time. At the same time, he's got to fulfill the normal obligations of the husband. And obviously, this must be more difficult for him than for the single man who's only got himself to look after. Flying is a very demanding business. As you know, it takes up a lot of time. Really, one almost has to live, eat and breathe it. Right the way through these training courses, and so it does place a lot of strain, I think, on the married man, and therefore he's got to have the support from his wife if he's going to be successful.
It's very easy to get depressed, very easy to get bitter about things. When I came down after failing EHT and going through the debrief that I had, I felt absolutely destroyed, and I wondered if I was ever going to make a pilot. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that was certainly the way I felt when I left at the end of that day. I went home in the evening, and I don't really want to say some of the things that went through my mind, actually, quite honestly. I felt terrible. But I presume that's a natural reaction. He said that if I ever wanted to fly a Phantom or a Jaguar, then the sort of flying that I was doing at the moment was going to be no good to me at all. I was going to have to improve quite drastically. He also went on to talk about how I was finding the course from being a married person, how that was affecting me at all, which I didn't think he really needed to go into. I don't know if he was digging or what he was after, but I felt really that it was a little bit irrelevant. I haven't really, to tell you the truth, got over it yet. I still feel quite depressed. But we shall see. Of course, there's the problem sometimes of, after all, if my wife's in the house on her own all day and I get home, she doesn't immediately want me to turn around and sit down with my books. She expects something out of the marriage after all. I suppose it's wrong to be upset by things like that. I want my wings, that's my priority, but at the same time, as I said to him, in getting my wings, I don't want to get a divorce. I still want to be married and happily married at the end of it.
Wives who for months now have been widows to flying are granted the token consolation of an occasional coffee morning at the officer's mess.
These two ladies. Oh, sweet.
We heard stories before we came here of how much studying they had to do, how much work they had to do. But you've got no real idea of it until you're actually right in the middle of it. So they're sitting, Sue said, with all the maps out, and I've got to work, I've got to do this, can't talk to you tonight. And they're always talking about flying in planes and how they're getting on, what tests they're doing, what do you do in this map, what do you do in that.
Mid-course, pressure high, morale low. That early delight simply in flying has long gone. Every sortie now is an examination that has to be passed, and Alistair Stewart is not passing enough of them. He's falling below the course standard, and his career is under review.
Stand by for broadcast. Stand by for broadcast. Standing by. The Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for Defence for the Royal Air Force, Mr. Geoffrey Batty, MP, and the Air Member for Personnel, Air Marshal Sir John Gingell, KCB, CBE, will visit Royal Air Force Linton-on-Ouse today, 28th of November, arriving at approximately 11:45 hours and departing at approximately 1600 hours. All personnel are to be meticulous in the paying of compliments. I say again, Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for Defence for the Royal Air Force, Mr. Geoffrey Batty, MP, and the Air Member for Personnel, Air Marshal Sir John Gingell, KCB, CBE, will visit Royal Air Force Linton-on-Ouse today, 28th of November, 1979, arriving at approximately 11:45 hours and departing at approximately 1600 hours. All personnel are to be meticulous in the paying of compliments and are to be especially watchful for service vehicles flying pennants.
Fascinating though it is.
End of broadcast.
Yeah, okay, fine. Right, you go on then. Right.
Gentlemen.
Right, okay.
Hello. Ah.
You're going to sit over here.
Shall I sit over here? Yes, why not?
Sit down. It's a great privilege this afternoon to introduce to you the Under-Secretary of State for Defence for the Royal Air Force, Mr. Geoffrey Batty, and you may be assured that you'll never be closer to the horse's mouth than you are this afternoon.
Fine, well, you did hear the group captain said that you are talking to the right end of the horse. So, some of the comments may come from the other end of the horse, but in that case, it usually happens in Parliament. Who's going to start off with raising some points here?
Artificer McRae, sir. As a direct entrant from civilian life, one of the things that attracted me to the RAF was the prospect of 6 weeks annual leave. I've just finished a leave year now, in fact, and in that leave year I got 2 weeks. How much emphasis would you put on leave as opposed, say, to achieving the flying task? How much do you think we need leave, shall we say?
I think everybody needs leave. I'm a great believer in bigger and better holidays, but I mean, I think in terms of the precise difficulties you may have had in carrying over your 2 weeks from one leave year to another leave year, I think I'll ask the Air Marshal to comment on that, really.
Well, you know, quite obviously, we want everybody to have the maximum whack of leave that he can get in. There are going to be periods during a normal service career where it just is not possible because the task is such that we're not going to hack our job if we all have a maximum of 6 weeks leave. And when you bear in mind that very often, along with that entitlement, you can combine the free time you get with some of the activities that are available to you in the service which wouldn't be available anywhere else. You know, I'm thinking like the skiing and those things. That's the compensation, to my mind, anyway.
The only problem in that is that I think if leave is programmed into the course, surely somebody considers that that leave is necessary. I certainly feel that I'm not flying as well as I perhaps could be had I had leave, shall we say, in between courses. I've just finished the 100-hour course and I'm now on the 60-hour course. And I feel very tired, I have to admit that, you know.
That's all part of the business of getting used to the intensity of operations. I think you grow out of that business of feeling tired after a while. I don't think you should worry too much if you feel tired just at the moment.
There's a voice of experience. But, I think the general point is well made, that it's all these things are a trade-off between what is desirable and ideal and what can actually be just allowed because of the exigencies of a particular situation. Yeah.
Sir Patterson, Nicol from the 2 Squadron. Do you believe in that case that it's fair to mislead people who are thinking of joining the Air Force? Because in the glossy brochures it does say you get 6 weeks leave a year.
I won't say we weren't able, but we were obviously being careful about what we said. You know, it's completely different. If the chap had walked in any day during the week when we were in the crew room, then it would obviously have been completely different.
That's right. I'm not feeling tired starting the sortie fresh and feeling tired at the end of it. In other words, a high cockpit workload.
That's right.
I've got a high course workload. In other words, it's a progressive thing. It's building up. I can't go to bed early tonight and be fine tomorrow morning. I'd have to go to bed early for a week. We have in the past been called weenies for going sick, because there was a time when the whole course got a bug or something. I forgot what it was. Yeah, and we all went sick. And I didn't, in fact. I thought, I won't go sick. And my flight was bloody awful. No, you give me stick like that. I don't have to come here to be insulted.
I'm standing here infecting your nose. I'm not worrying.
Yeah. And I kept flying, and the flying was awful. And I lost my solo cat and everything like that. And I should have gone sick. But the people that did go sick were called weenies. So it takes a lot of courage to even go sick around here.
I'm sorry, first of all, that we're not going to have as long for this wash-up session as I would have liked otherwise, but I was a bit surprised. They seem to be very much concerned with the day-to-day problems. I mean, leave came up and clothing came up and whether they'd be able to wear their wings and things of this sort and what goes into the advertisements. I'm not saying that there's no substance in these points, but did you think there was anything particularly behind them? I mean, the leave point, for example, do you think is that a great concern here?
Well, we started off, sir, saying it's open. Nothing is taboo, and let's see what comes out. And what came out, surprisingly, from my point of view, was that they seemed to be far more concerned with, for example, what they saw in recruiting posters and advertisements than they were with the future. I thought, myself, that they would be saying, well, how many seats are there going to be on Tornado? And we would have been saying, well, not very many for people at your stage.
Do you not think, though, that if the first questioner had started the whole thing off by saying, do tell us a little about the Tornado, how's it going, yes, that would really and truly have conditioned the whole session? As it was, the first question was a very mundane sort of thing, almost a peripheral thing, really, to the main thrust of things. And that set the tone.
Personally, to sort of live life to the fullest here and get the most out of it, you can't afford to think about you know, how many bombs your tornado's going to carry, you know.
That's
You've got to
right.
think about, Christ, what's the power setting for my ILS tomorrow? You can't prat around. If he had asked to come and see us, why didn't he ask us more questions? That's what I kept thinking to myself. But then again, maybe because the station commander introduced him and more or less said what we were to say, you know.
Yeah, I felt we were told what to say.
I wonder that maybe if he gets, being an MP, he gets into some argument in the House of Commons,
Right.
and they can say, well, we want more money for flying training, and say, well, how can you just say, well, I've been to Linton News, we want more money, they'll say. And his opposite number on the other side of the House, well, he's been to Linton, I haven't been, you know. Oh, we'll have to get a visit up there sometime and ask some questions, you know. If he came here to a flying training station, he ought to have come to learn about flying training, no.
Not about, how he should be doing his job.
High-level decisions in NATO.
But I think he sort of missed the point. And he recommended...
At the flying instructors' monthly meeting, Martin Withers brings up the difficult case of Alistair Stewart.
But subsequent to that, Al did come to me and say that he was having serious doubts about whether he ought to carry on with this training at all, because he was dissatisfied with his own performance and didn't want to put all his efforts into just achieving a minimal standard. But I'm afraid to say that I was very unimpressed with his standard of flying. On the evidence of that sortie, I would not send him solo. I would not send him solo even in the circuit. His circuits displayed total lack of sort of awareness in there. The approach was bad because he went right through the centre line and then attacked it from the right, came back in with a wind from the left. So as he got back on the centre line, he then turned back and drifted back. That's why we landed on the right-hand side of the runway. I'd say, on the basis of that trip, I would not send him solo, not even in the circuit. And in fact, I was surprised. You know, I expected him to be better than he was.
What was his reaction when you got out of the aircraft? How did he feel about the trip?
I haven't actually asked him how he thought it went. He just got out and smiled at me and said, "Thank you for the trip, sir."
Okay.
Alistair Stewart was given extra instruction and another 10 hours of flying time. When it was over, he made his own decision. He formally applied to be withdrawn from training.
What about that then? I'm sorry I had to give you some assistance with the landing, but say, obviously, if you're aiming before the numbers, you're going to hit the undershoots, which is a bit embarrassing.
I wasn't making the progress I was looking to make. I wanted to sort of be up with the front runners, so to speak. And it started to nag a little bit, the fact that I was behind. And the fact that generally my performance wasn't that good, I didn't think. I couldn't honestly see myself surviving the course right through to the end. I spoke to a few people who knew me a while ago, prior to my joining the Air Force. And they would remark that I seemed to have changed quite a bit. I was getting a bit ratty with them, and I didn't enjoy a joke as much as I had done. And I think just the strain that I was almost sort of self-inflicted strain, it was sort of beginning to get to me a little bit. And it was having a sort of a rather unpleasant sort of psychological side effect. That was, you can live with that. But then it started to almost manifest itself in a physical sense, in that I started getting these really quite unpleasant headaches. And I wasn't sure what they were. I hadn't been sleeping particularly well. You don't sleep well when you've got something that's really nagging on your mind. And I had another couple of chats with the doctor about my general sort of situation. And I came to the conclusion that really flying was having a nasty effect on me, while the pilot training was having a nasty effect. And that allied with the fact that I didn't think I was going to survive anyhow, which was a view that was echoed by my squadron commander. I decided that, okay, you've given it a go, you've tried your damnedest, which in fact I did. As my reports will back up. And you tried your best and it doesn't work out, well, it's no good really flogging a dead horse too much.
While Alistair Stewart is grounded and awaits a decision on his future, his 3 friends who set out with him a year ago fly on. For another 6 months, they'll learn instrument flying, navigation, night flying, aerobatics, and formation flying.
Radar traffic 3 miles, clear to 2.
Only two have passed with high enough marks to have a chance of going on to be fighter pilots, John McRae and Robbie Lowe. They will move on to fast jets at RAF Valley.
Hello? Say something. Yes, I passed with the boss.
Martin Oxborough has got through the course, but only just. To the relief of his wife, he's been sent to train on transports.
No.
And Alistair Stewart is asking for a chance to become a navigator.
I wonder if I could ask you about a personal aspect which has been in the background of your pilot training, because I wonder the extent to which it will have affected your ability to cope with the course, bearing in mind that your reports show that you tend to be hypercritical of yourself. Anyway, I don't know whether you appreciate that.
I've always been sort of set high standards, so yes.
Yes, well, I can understand that. But of course, it's the question of your father, and I'm very sorry to hear that since you voluntarily withdrew from pilot training, in fact, your father has died. Oh, I don't think there's any doubt about it at all. He's a good-looking, intelligent lad, and I can appreciate why the staff's directed me towards some misgivings, and it's been valuable to have a look at him. But I think that he's well worth risking in navigator training.
On November 9th, 1979, Alistair Stewart, wings clipped, sets off for a year's training as a navigator.
Take it easy, Al. What I showed you this morning, look, you follow me through. You apply a part and gently change attitude, not a great heave. Yeah. Reduce power, gently change attitude. Look, can you see how I'm doing it? Maintaining 115 knots. Yeah. You're being too rough. Okay? And then if your speed's too low, you just lower the gear slightly. All right? And then you can have a go at one. We'll just go a little bit further to get you a decent horizon. There's a horizon ahead for you to climb on anyway.
Alistair Stewart qualified as a navigator, but in September 1981, after just 3 months on Buccaneers, once again asked to be withdrawn.